Ed Mayne, thank you for visiting the Georgia Strait.
My pleasure.
Earlier this month, you resigned as mayor of Parksville and joined the race to become the next BC Liberal Party leader and the next premier.
Yes.
I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about who you are and why you're running.
Sure. I'm a 60-year-old individual that lives in Parksville. As you said, I was the mayor up until last Tuesday. Prior to that, my wife and I owned the Tim Hortons in Parksville. And before that, I held a number of senior executive positions in some major companies around the country. For example, Tim Hortons head office, Wendy's Restaurants of Canada, Agnew Shoes. It goes on from there.
Mm-hmm. What would you say are the key issues, or the key issue or theme that you are raising in your campaign?
I believe there's only one issue in this whole race, and that's leadership. And leadership is the only thing that we should be talking about. Any other conversation is just to hide the fact of lack of leadership. You know, that's really what we've got to spend our time talking about. Who will make the best leader for this province?
Mm-hmm. And what do you think is needed in terms of leadership?
Well, you need somebody with credibility, integrity, honesty, somebody who's prepared to listen to the people. And that's probably the key. We've got to stop this top-down management that we have in government. We need to listen to the grassroots and let the grassroots tell the Premier's office what to do.
If you were leader, what would be some of the steps you would take to restore that credibility?
Interesting question, and but the first and the foremost thing that you have to do is to bring in free votes in the legislature, so that they're not what they call whipped votes. People get to vote the way the constituents want them to, rather than the way the Premier's office is dictating to. Mm-hmm. You do that, you start to move the chains forward. The next thing you have to do is change the culture. You have to change the culture so that it is now you're making decisions for the right reasons and not for political reasons. If you look at all of the decisions that have been made, where there's been mistakes made, they were all made for political reasons, not for the right reasons. We have to change that mindset. We have to forget about the next election. We have to worry about the next generation.
Mm-hmm. All of the other Liberal leadership candidates have experience in government as both MLAs and cabinet ministers,
Mm-hmm.
and you do not.
That's true.
What qualifications do you have to lead the provincial government?
I have extensive management experience. I have leadership abilities that I believe are better than anybody else's that are running at this point in time. I just have a better all-around feel for what's good for business and what's good for people.
I'd like to ask you about...
Let me.
Oh,
okay, I'm just going to go on to one more point, if I could. You know, you bring up about the experience of the other people. You know, I always push back on that by saying, you know what, Gordon Campbell had 20-odd years of experience, and look what it got to for him in the last go-around. So the kind of experience isn't as important as the depth of your experience.
In BC, the minimum wage is $8.
Yes.
And it is the lowest in the country, and it hasn't gone up for about a decade.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, what is your position on increasing minimum wage?
It's a very complicated problem. Everybody thinks that, oh, you just raise the minimum wage and life is good for everybody, but that's not quite the way it happens. Really what we need to do here is first off, you have to look at who does minimum wage affect, and it's primarily the hospitality industry, you know, throughout tourism and hospitality. That's one of the major groups that it will affect. And you have to go back and you have to say, what's happened to them lately? The economy has gone south, the American dollar has come up, so it's affected tourism and so on. We've gone to HST, which is one of the big effects was on the hospitality industry. Then they went to the 0.5, the toughening of the penalties for 0.5 alcohol. That affected them. There's a number of businesses in British Columbia that are right on the ropes. And then you come back and you say, okay, we want to go back to, I've heard as high as $12 an hour for minimum wage. You are going to affect these businesses. And in the end, you will cost jobs. Minimum wage has to go up. There's no doubt about that. It has to go up. All I'm suggesting is that when we do this, we do it gradually and we step it up. We don't take this and move it $2 an hour immediately, because it's not just the person that's making the $8. What happens to the girl that's making $10 right now? And you know, we move the minimum wage up to $10. She's not going to be happy making $10 now. She's going to want 12. So you have what they call compression on the wages at that point in time. So it affects your whole situation. So it becomes there. And the last point on minimum wage that nobody takes into effect: every business has a model that says you can spend X number of percentage on minimum wage, or on wages rather. And that's an easy calculation. You go and you say, okay, I can spend $300 on wages, and if the minimum wage is $10, then I get 30 hours worth of wages. If it's $12, then I get whatever the divisor is of that into 300. So you reduce the numbers, because at the end of the day, the people still have to make their percentages work. So it's not as easy as it seems. However, it does have to move up, but it should take 2 or 3 years. That's how they did it in Ontario when they moved it up just recently. Mm-hmm. Sorry, that was a long answer for a short question.
I guess on the HST,
yes,
you said that you support the tax and that you'd like to see the referendum held in September.
Yes.
I'm wondering if voters decide to reject the HST, what do you think the government should do?
Well, the end result here, the reality is that the government needs the money. There's really only 4 ways a government gets money when it has a shortfall in revenues. You either raise income tax, you have a value-added tax such as HST, you increase debt, or you decrease services. Well, you know, our services have been decreased way too much as it is. Our debt, why should the youth of our country get saddled with the debt that we're going to give them? So now you're down to income tax and value-added tax. And if we eliminate the value-added tax, then you're only faced with one alternative, which is income tax. So the people of British Columbia are going to pay that money one way or another.
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
Oh, no problem at all.